Welcome to worship in the Unitarian Universalist Church of Charlotte. This week, on that fattest of all Tuesdays, some, aware that Lenten discipline and deprivation are soon to settle in for a 6-week stay, some will sing and dance, revel, party, enjoy themselves. This week, on that most romantic of all of the Hallmark holidays, some will exchange roses by the dozen and chocolate by the pound and profess love, or at least the desire to be for one day someone's Valentine. So today, on a Sunday that sets into motion a week so full of joy and love, we let up, let go, if only a little, our firm grip on the grim realities of our times. Today, both because we can and because we so need it, we serve a far, far lighter fare than usual. Now, if you came seeking the serious, the spiritually profound, the social summons to take stock of evil and inequity, the ushers will gladly stamp your ticket at the door for a sooner than you might expect future service of that sort. Today, we join with all who now seek to notice, to appreciate, to bring joy and love to the world.
The lighting of this flame pulls us into the warmth and joy of its promise to nurture, enlighten, and inspire us. The poem Living. If you must live, live purposefully, live wholesomely. Don't waste your days in the unknown tomorrow. If you do, someone else your days might borrow. Live in the now, live in the how. If you must breathe, breathe happily. Life is not meant to be lived grumpily. I am speaking to myself too, you see. I have been living in my tomorrows and dwelling on my yesterdays. So I was seldom in the moment, letting today's joy pass me by, letting yesterday's pain cripple me. I have lived in the now too, but what if I always did that? What if you and I were to pause, not project or postpone, but right in this second, repose, find rest, find refreshment in simple worlds transferred from my mind to yours. In a heartbeat, you feel what I feel, drawing from anything these words instill. In this instant, you and I can live together. For once this instant is gone, it is gone forever. And in the coming minutes, breathe on, live on. For if you must breathe, breathe gladly. If you must live, live delightedly. Not waiting for the accomplishment of your dreams, not waiting for the end of the storm, but right here, right now, stop and smile. Breathe in, breathe out. Live in the how of now.
Baroness Marie von Ebner-Eschenbach was born in what is now the Czech Republic. She became one of the most significant writers in the German language in the second half of the 19th century. In her weighty tome, Aphorisms, she writes, "Oh, happy pessimists. What a joy it is to them to be able to prove again and again that there is no joy. Giles is a lonely, gay, out-of-work advertising artist who keeps at his meticulous craft with optimistic discipline, imagining, hoping against hope and reason that his big break is coming. Living alone in the tired old apartment next door, Eliza is a mute, scarred woman who departs each night for the long bus ride to her job cleaning the restrooms in a top-secret underground government facility. They're two of the main characters around whom the story turns in Guillermo del Toro's remarkable movie, The Shape of Water. For all of their readily apparent differences, they have most in common a trait that bonds their friendship. They are outsiders, shunned, ignored, avoided. Part of the enchantment of the movie is its deep plunge, pun intended, into magical realism, a cinematic flight of fancy that soars in certain alluring scenes. But it's also charming in its simple little quirks. Early on in the film, Giles and Eliza sit side by side on his well-worn sofa watching Betty Grable on a black and white console television. Signaling just how often they viewed that movie, they subtly join in a simple seated dance. His high-top brogans and her well-shined heels tapping out a multi-step sequence together. They're perfectly choreographed for the brief little shuffle and amuse themselves with a grand flourish, looking into each other's eyes and smiling broadly. It would be a hardened viewer who is not smiling along with them at that point. The Shape of Water is a wild cinematic romp, full of high drama and deep intrigue. But the masterful Del Toro somehow manages to weave in moments of utter charm such that we suspend our disbelief and revel in them. When into the deeply secure and secret facility, Eliza somehow sneaks both a portable record player and a dual selection of vinyl records in their sleeves, Benny Goodman and Glenn Miller. And when she presents them as a choice to that mysterious river creature behind the thick tank of glass, we buy in. For that, we're rewarded with a payoff of deep delight. Eliza's sensual, light-footed dance before the creature with her mop. There's so much to be had in The Shape of Water that it has stayed with me in ways few movies do. Whatever else is at play in this now much acclaimed film, perhaps in large measure, at least for me, what made it memorable is this. Into the least likely of lives enters both subtle joy and seductive love. It has certainly occurred to me that my own and likely others' high regard for Del Toro's work may have a great deal to do with our times. Our thumbs signal approval out of our own deep longing for reminders of joy and love in a time cursed with characters every bit as horrific as the villainous Colonel Richard Strickland. We cheer to see, spoiler alert, love triumph over greed, poignancy prevail over power, and joy break through into circumstances where joy could hardly have been expected. Today, we aren't trying to press some impressive point. We're not touting the necessity of transformation or searching anew for some way to address our prodigious social ills. There's plenty more of that to come, I assure you. Today, we're simply, though there's precious little that's simple about it, we're simply trying to call our collective attention to a world in which joy and love have not gone missing. We need joy, the late Maya Angelou recognized. We need joy as we need air. We need love, she contended. We need love as we need water. My friends, joy and love are not superfluous. Life's optional add-ons. Joy and love aren't indulgences, the prerogative of the privileged. Joy and love aren't rewards, the rightful earnings of the earnest. Joy is as essential as air, love as requisite as water. We may subsist without them, but we surely cannot live long in their absence. The great Rabindranath Tagore found joy in profusion. Joy is everywhere, he'd write. And after encyclopedic sequence proving his point, he underscores it again. Joy is there everywhere. That may be true. However, many of us may identify with the more modest account of Barbara Kingsolver. She admits that she has had to force herself to look hard. To look hard, she says, until I learn to be in love with my life again. I have, she attests, taught myself joy over and over again. Whether joy greets you at every turn, or whether you too have to go looking for it, whether love infuses your days in shimmering array or shows up in little glimmers and gleams, today is a reminder. It's an invitation. It is a summons. Let there be days of joy and love. It's okay, really. No matter how fast the world seems to be going to hell in a handbasket, it's okay to be happy. That's what South African writer Koleka Patuma learned. Or she says, she is trying to learn, which is right up there with unlearning. It's okay to be happy, she writes. It's okay to have joy. It's okay to write about joy and talk about joy. And she is even trying to learn, she says, that joy is a birthright, even with all the crap around us. Sometimes joy breaks in, bidden or not. Sometimes we have to schedule it, make it show up. Sometimes love happens as our first sight. Sometimes we have to go looking for it. And the most poignantly wrenching moment in The Shape of Water, Guillermo del Toro stages an artistically acceptable, way over the top indulgence into magical realism. From a sad scene at a table weighted under impending grief and the creeping threat of mortality, suddenly we find ourselves in what film critic Sean Patrick calls opulent, indulgent beauty. It's a fantasy dance scene. a restaging of old movie dancing, replete with flowing gowned sophistication. Patrick deems it the best scene in any movie in 2017. Beautifully shot, elegantly staged, and he says, just damn entertaining. Some will do that this very week. They'll don one costume or another and, heeding Auden's famous counsel, throw down the mattock and dance while they can. They'll drink deeply from the well of joy because it is there, and in such places, drinking deeply from the well of joy is simply what they do. Without parades and beads and loud music and revelry for us to anticipate, we may need to find joy or notice joy or make joy as we can. Some similarly will indulge in over-the-top romance this week. They'll heed the call of the calendar and, aware of their utter good fortune, engage in a rose-hued, chocolatey day and night. Others may need to look for little glimpses, to find love or notice love or make love as we can. If it is not readily apparent, we could, I suppose, follow Guillermo del Toro's lead and stage it. I admit that it might seem crazy what I'm about to say. But no matter how soggy this Sunday may seem, sun shines right here. You can take a break. As if you were a hot air balloon that could go to space with the air like you don't care, baby. By the way. And wherever or whenever joy or love appears, you really could clap along if you feel like a room without a roof. Clap along if you feel like happiness is the truth. Clap along if you know what happiness is to you. Joy and love are setting a beat today, this week, and you can clap along if that's what you want to do. Glasses time. My name is Jenny Sullivan, and I was a UU in California, Cincinnati, and Akron for 16 years before joining UUCC in 1981. In 1985, I left for 27 years, most recently being a member of Myers Park Baptist Church for 25 of those years. I returned in 2014 to a very different UUCC.
I welcome the opportunity to share with you some thoughts on joy and love. Sitting down to write on this topic brought to mind some ideas I used to guide me in my search for joy in the commonplace. Love will almost always involve loss. For example, I lost 4 significant people within a very few years: mother, husband, daughter, sister. While of course mourning their absence in my life, I found myself focusing more on the fact that 3 of them were over 90 and were facing inevitable disabilities. They were ready to avoid those. The 4th also was freed from a life which our flawed mental health system would never make better. They brought me to celebrate the joy in the lives they had lived. Joy is a choice to reframe an over-earnest reaction to life, a choice to avoid an overactive reaction to life. It takes mindfulness, intention, and practice to develop this skill. For example, last week the choir sang "Walk On." Afterward, that felt more like saying "trudge on." I like "skip on" or "dance on" as a practice. Another idea: get the car behind you through the traffic light without running into the car ahead of you, providing others with opportunity that costs you nothing. This is my metaphor for life. People who don't make mistakes aren't doing anything. One day, as an 18-year-old nursing student, I sent the wrong baby home. Yep, the wrong baby. I fully expected to be dismissed from college. I called my mother to expect me home and began to pack up. Then I got a call to come to the dean's office. There was no joy in that. To my surprise, she apologized to me. No talk of dismissal. Great joy, of course. Soon I realized what had happened. My mother called her to ask why an 18-year-old student was left alone in a newborn nursery of 45 babies. I then also forgave myself. Soon after that, a wise faculty member told me, people who don't make mistakes aren't doing anything. That was good. I used that in my life to understand that in order to avoid errors, I would have to give up doing. Not going to happen. Oh, by the way, the babies all got back to right moms. We took care of it. Sign up and show up. Engagement with people is what the Dalai Lama and Bishop Tutu define as the most reliable source of joy. Service to others. When I finish a session as a counselor each week at the Urban Ministry Center, I am glowing with joy. When I finish shelving the books in 3 high-poverty elementary schools, I go in seeing piles of books. I leave with the alphabetical order of authors and the Dewey Decimal System in good order. How simple, how reliable. Get joy out of ordinary, simple things. Doing laundry may not strike you as a particularly joyous task. It usually isn't for me either. But when I do the laundry for the room in the inn, I think about the people who enjoyed warm beds, great food, and white tablecloths, when the alternative would have been sleeping in the rain and eating out of a can. As I grow older, I engage deeply with those younger than me. In some of my long associations, some almost 30 years ongoing, almost all the participants are younger than I am. Their tussles in their lives remind me that I will never want to be that age again. I wish you the best in inviting joy to enter your lives. Welcome to today's service. We're honored to have guests with us. Our members would like to greet you following the service so that we might do so. If you are visiting, Please raise your hands, keep them up. Members, please take note of guests seated near you. After the service, invite them to join you for coffee and conversation in Freeman Hall. Should it enhance your experience of future services, you can find both a large print order of service and a personal hearing assistance device on the table near the entrance to the sanctuary. If you'd like to learn more about us, please fill out a yellow card and place your completed card in the offering basket when they are passed later in the service. Members with a life event to share can do so on the reverse side of the card. You will find them along with offering envelopes on the clipboards at the end of the row. Please begin passing them down your row now. Some returning visitors may be interested in hearing about how to become a member. If so, talk with our membership staff person, Kelly Green. Her contact information is on the back of your order. Again, to each of you, welcome.
I add my own welcome. I'm glad you're here. Thank you for joining us on another rainy Sunday morning. There are announcements in your order about other ways to be involved in the life of this congregation. As Jenny mentioned tonight, we will host homeless neighbors in our building. You're able to help with that. On Thursday evening, we will offer the next meal to the Uptown Men's Shelter. We need a couple of more of us to be engaged with that. You can speak with Nancy Walensky if you're available on Thursday evening to help out there. We gather as a community mindful of needs in our own personal lives, of needs in our congregation, and certainly needs in the larger community. Today marks some special occasion of concern, of joy, perhaps of remembrance for you. You're invited to come forward during the playing of the offertory and light a candle, visitor, member alike, during the offertory, which will be later in the service. Welcome again to each of you.
You may want to dance a little on this one. That's just fine. You can sit down there, you can stand up there, you can idle dance.
please join me for our unison prayer. Big joy, have mercy.
With the trust that all those who now love and laugh in this community will want it to continue, we will now take the offering. Remember that trust is not enough. It takes action from you. Please join with me in the affirmation on our faith, rising in body and or spirit. May this be
Be wise and go merry round.
whatever you cherish,
What you love to enjoy.
what you live to exert.
And when the High Spirit calls your number up,
Count on merriment all the way to the countdown.
long live hilarity
Euphoria.
and flummadiddle
Long live gaiety.
for all the laity. Please be seated.